Hey y'all, welcome to your first year of drum lessons, week 12, drum pad edition. If you saw my video the other day, I apologize for missing last week. I was feeling a little under the weather, which is putting it fairly mildly. I was pretty sick. It looks likely that I had the certain worldwide illness that's going around. My husband definitely had it, and we share close quarters, and so we had similar symptoms. And so I am rounding up to say that I presumptively had it, even though I was not tested for it. Anywho, I'm feeling better now. Still not 100% there, but on the mend, and feeling good enough to make a video for y'all today. So there's that. I missed y'all. I hope you've been practicing. I hope you're all staying safe. These are crazy times, and all we can do is kind of ride through them, right? Today we're going to do a new roll exercise, and we're going to learn a new flam rudiment, and we're going to start working on another snare drum solo. So without further babbling, let's just jump in. The roll exercise that we're going to do, this is one of those standard, traditional, everybody plays this exercise. I'm certain there are different versions of it. This is the version I learned a billion years ago. I think I learned a couple other versions too. This is the one that I've played the most over the last 40 years. So what we're going to do is play a gradually shortening 16th note double stroke roll pattern. First thing we're going to do is play a whole measure of 16th notes, so 16 16th notes, and then a full measure of double stroke roll. If you remember, I've mentioned that all the rolls up to 2 beats long have names, right? A double stroke roll that's 2 beats long is a 17 stroke roll. A four beat roll doesn't really have a name. At that point, it's just an open roll. So we're going to do that twice. Then we're going to cut that in half. So 2 beats of 16th notes and then 2 beats of roll. And there's our 17 stroke roll. Okay. And then twice we're going to do 1 beat of 16th notes and 1 beat of roll. And we just did that last time I saw you, the 9-stroke roll, right? And then, very bottom, we're going to do 2 16ths and a 5-stroke roll. We're going to do that one 4 times just to fill out the whole measure. I've written it so you can lead with your right hand and you can lead with your left hand. You really should. This is the type of thing that when you work on it with your left hand lead, you'll start to feel your hands balancing out. Really try and develop a smooth sound, whether you're starting with your right or your left, and throughout the whole exercise. So let me run through each section and then we'll play it together. So the first section, like I say, is just measure 16ths, measure roll twice. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. Okay, then 2 beats and 2 beats. 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E, 3E and a 4E and a 1. and then one beat of each, 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. And then half a beat of each, but this one 4 times. 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. So the whole thing, 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. Same thing, so let's start with the left hand. Let's do it a little bit faster. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. Let me jump back to the right hand and do it a little bit faster still. And I'll do it a couple times through just so you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. This is one of my favorite roll exercises. It's really simple. It's really easy to remember. It's a pretty good workout, but it's not a killer, so you can play it. You know, you could play this for a half hour straight at a pretty brisk tempo, and because you're going back and forth between the 16th notes and the 32nd notes, you're pushing yourself, but you're also letting your muscles kind of breathe a little bit. So it's creating that nice, you know, tension release, which is a really great way to build your muscle control. Okay, so that's it. Like always, this handout is going to be available down below in the doobly-doo as a PDF. You can probably just memorize this exercise like that, but it's nice to see what it looks like too. Remember we talked about last time, so the way that we're writing rolls is with these little slashes, these tremolo marks, and those mean that we're going to play that whole note's value with 32nd notes. And the dashes, this R as the first hand, and then going to the R down here, that means I'm starting with my right hand and I'm ending with my right hand. Okay? Which we've talked about before, but just as a review. Okay, so this will be available down below. Next, we're going to skip over, if you're following along on our rudiments sheet, we're going to skip over the Flam EQ, which is number 23, and jump to the Flam Paradiddle, which is number 24. We're going to go back to the Flam EQ. That'll be our next rudiment, whether we get to it next week or in a couple weeks. But we've been doing so much with paradiddles that I thought it made sense to do the Flam Paradiddle now instead of the Flam EQ. So the Flam Paradiddle is like it sounds. It's a flam added to a paradiddle. So if our paradiddles are just paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. So now I can put the flam where the accent is, and I have Flam-a-diddle, 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 flam-a-diddle. A nice way to work in these is go back and forth between the regular single paradiddle and the flam paradiddle. So I'll do 4 of each. I got paradiddle, 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 flamadiddle, 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 paradiddle, 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 flamadiddle, 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 flamadiddle. Okay, so I don't really think there's too much to say about that one. We've done a lot of the flams already, and we've done a ton of paradiddles. So this is just putting those two together, and suddenly you have one more checked off on your list of rudiments. Okay, so finally today, we're going to start working on our next snare solo, which is called Raspberry March. And again, handout will be available down below. We're going to do just the first 3.5 lines today. If you can see, we're going to come down to right here. So after this fortissimo, that phrase. Okay, so we're going to stop before the mezzo forte. So we're going to do 3 lines and then 3 measures. Next time we'll talk about the rest and then we'll put it all together. Okay, this is a little bit of a step up difficulty-wise from where we've been, so I felt like let's take it at a pace that won't be too overwhelming. Most of these patterns shouldn't be unfamiliar to you, but we're starting to put them together in a way that is a little bit more musically challenging. One musical element I want to point out, this little doodad here that looks like a % sign, that is a 1-bar repeat. So that means we're going to play this measure here, and then we're going to play it again. Okay? It's almost like the musical equivalent of ditto marks. So we play this, and here it's almost like a copy paste, right? I could like just copy that and paste it in there. The reason this exists is just for typesetting ease, basically. Okay, so let's run through the first little bit where allegro is our tempo marking, which means fast. So our goal for this should be somewhere around 130 beats per minute. We're not going to get close to that today. We're going to take it slow and we're just going to count and see how everything works. So let's do it 1 measure at a time, and then we'll go back and put it all together up until that place where I said we're going to stop. So the first measure, we're starting at forte. I've got some 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4. We've basically seen that before. Second measure, I want to call your attention to the accent on the after 3. That is a very awkward accent. So the second measure sounds like this. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and. Right? 3 E and a 4 E and. 3 E and a 4 E and. Okay? Ready, go. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and. And we're finishing that with the 1 on the third measure. So the second measure again, 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and 1. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and 1. Then continuing the third measure on beat 3, now I'm down to mezzo forte, medium loud. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a, piece of cake. Next measure, 1 and 2 E and 3 E, a 4 E and. The next measure, I've got kind of a rolling accent that is accenting every group of 3. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1. Okay, so that's the first measure in the second line. Ready, go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1. Got 2 quarter rests and an eighth rest. So then the next note, the piano, is on the and after 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1. So now at the beginning of the third line, here's where we've got that 1 measure repeat, right? So I'm still quiet. 1 and a 2 and 3, a 4 E, a 1 and a 2 and 3, a 4 E, a. Okay, so that was the same thing twice, first and second measure of the third line. Now where it says forte, we've seen this rhythm a lot. 1 E, a 2 E, a 3 E, a 4 E, a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, a 2 and 3. Okay, so remember that hairpin, little thing that looks like this, is a crescendo. So I start piano in the second measure of the fourth line on beat 3, and then that hairpin tells me that I get louder to the fortissimo at the beginning of the third measure, and then that measure is fortissimo. And then when we go on next time, it's going to be mezzo forte, but we're going to stop here for today. So let's try that whole bit, those 3.5 lines. So from the top, pretty mellow tempo just so we can follow and see what's going on. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and 3 E, a 4 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3, a 4 E, a 1 and a 2 and 3, a 4 E, a 1 E, a 2 E, a 3, a 4 E, a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, a 2 and 3, 4. Okay, so like I said, we're going to stop there. Honestly, frankly, partly it's because I don't want to overload you guys. It's also because I'm still on the mend, and I want to keep it a little light today myself for me. So there. So this is going to be a little bit shorter of a lesson for our hand lessons. A lot of times I will ramble, but the roll exercise I think is pretty self-explanatory. The Flam Paradiddles hopefully are super self-explanatory, and Raspberry March we're dipping our toe in, and we're not jumping in whole hog yet. Okay, we'll save that for next time. So that's going to wrap us up for today. Like I said, I'm easing back in, feeling better, but not 100% yet. So bear with me this week. I'll torture you guys. I'll torture you guys more in the coming weeks to make up for it. I promise. Okay, so remember, if you have any questions, please leave them down below. Please like this video. Please subscribe if you're new here. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified of when I release videos. I said in my video the other day that things are a little crazy right now, so when I fully feel better, I have a lot more time at home. Hopefully there'll be more time for videos. So if you want to be aware of all those, make sure you hit the notification bell. As always, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Penny Larson Drums, and I'd be more than happy to connect with you all there. And that's it. I hope you guys are still practicing. I know for some of you, the current restrictions that some of us are under make practicing difficult if you have to deal with neighbors or family or whatever. I'm sure for some of us it means we get to practice more, and for some of us it makes practicing more difficult, right? So do the best you can, even if you have to resort to a pillow for a couple weeks while we get through this. Remember that we will get through this. And yeah. Oh, it's so exciting to be back with you all. This was this was a light lesson, but it's nice to be here with y'all. So yeah, I will see you on Friday, if not before. I have a lesson that's floating around in my head that I might get published on Thursday. We'll see how that goes. Otherwise, I will see you for the drum set portion of your first year of drum lessons on Friday. Take care, y'all. I love you all very much. Bye.